The chandeliers sparkled above a marble floor that stretched endlessly beneath velvet-covered chairs and crystal glassware. The La Creme Royale, the most exclusive fine dining restaurant in the city, wasn't a place for the ordinary. It wasn't a place for hesitation, sweat, or humility. It was built for the untouchable, the rich, the powerful, the arrogant. Tonight, a billionaire named Charles Whitmore was at the head of the main hall. He didn't walk into rooms. Rooms changed when he entered. A sharp, tailored suit hugged his ego like armor. The air shifted around him. Conversations dimmed. Forks stopped midair. Everyone knew Charles. Everyone feared him. He built his empire by crushing lesser men beneath polished shoes. But across the room, a different presence stirred, silent, nearly invisible, but grounded like a root-breaking concrete. That was Elijah. The waiter. A tall, soft-spoken black man with tired eyes, a straight spine, and hands that moved with quiet grace. He was used to serving shadows, the invisible class who moved between tables, filled glasses, and disappeared before anyone had to remember their names. But tonight, fate had written his name in gold. Elijah had one job: deliver the main course to Mr. Whitmore's table. It was simple, flawless, routine, but life doesn't follow recipes. As Elijah approached the billionaire's table, balancing the carved wooden tray like a sacred offering, a child's laughter echoed near the entrance. A sound of joy, a sound too raw, too real for this synthetic space. Elijah flinched, turning his head for just a moment. The plate slipped. It didn't crash or splatter, but the sauce, a deep, blood-red reduction, landed with cruel accuracy on the pristine sleeve of Charles Whitmore's $1,000 coat. Silence, utter silence, the kind that presses into your ribs and steals your breath. Whitmore slowly rose. A hush rippled across the room like a wave pulling back before a storm. He didn't yell at first. He laughed, a cold, amused chuckle that tightened every muscle in Elijah's neck. "You people," Whitmore said, eyes narrowing. "You get one job, just one. And even that's too hard, isn't it?" Elijah stood still, hands folded in front of him. Not pleading, not flinching, just present. The billionaire walked up to him. Close, so close, the scent of cigars and arrogance curled into Elijah's nostrils. "Do you know who I am?" Whitmore sneered. "I do, sir," Elijah replied calmly. "Then you should also know that people like me don't tolerate mistakes from people like you." Gasps, a few nervous chuckles from the elite tables, as if trying to pretend this wasn't happening. Elijah looked him in the eye steadily, not defiantly, and said nothing. That silence burned Whitmore more than any insult. So the billionaire raised his voice. Loud, cutting. "Say something, boy. You think silence makes you noble. You're a servant. Speak when spoken to." The room froze. The maître d' flinched. A hostess turned pale. And then, Elijah finally opened his mouth, and with a voice calm as a river in the dark, he said, "A man's worth isn't in his wallet, it's in how he treats those who carry his plate." The entire restaurant froze. Even the forks didn't dare clink. A woman near the fireplace whispered, "Did he just—" Charles Whitmore's face turned red, not with sauce, but shame. For a moment, the weight of truth landed heavier than money ever could. And for the first time in a long time, the billionaire didn't know what to say. It started with a spilled glass of water. The waiter, polite and attentive, was simply trying to refill a customer's drink. But the billionaire Donovan Harlow, a real estate tycoon known for his ruthless empire, had been on edge all night. His latest deal was falling apart. His fiancée had just walked out, and the last thing he wanted was a drop of water on his designer shoes. He exploded. "You people can't do anything right, can you?" he snapped, standing up. His voice boomed across the polished marble floor. The young black waiter froze, stunned. As heads turned, a couple near the window gasped. The manager stepped forward nervously but didn't interfere. The staff stood still, unsure whether to help or stay out of the storm. The waiter's hands shook slightly as he held the jug, but his face remained calm. "Sir," he said softly, "it was just water. I can clean it right up." But Donovan leaned in, eyes burning. "No. What you can do is remember who you're serving. I don't pay to be disrespected." The room tensed. It wasn't about water anymore. This was personal. And that's when the waiter looked him dead in the eyes and prepared to speak. A hush fell. For a second, it was as if the clatter of cutlery and the hum of conversation paused, just long enough for truth to step forward. The billionaire, still fuming, stared daggers at the waiter. "Is there a manager in this place who can train staff to listen to simple English?" His voice echoed, drawing eyes from every corner of the opulent restaurant. Couples turned mid-bite, and forks hovered in the air. The tension thickened like fog rolling over water. But the black waiter, maybe 25, lean and dressed in a perfectly ironed white shirt, didn't flinch. He didn't cower or apologize like everyone expected. No, he stood tall, chest forward, eyes calm but fierce. Then he said it, the one sentence that would silence the room. Sir, he began, voice steady. I used to serve kings, but none ever spoke to me like this. A wave of stillness rushed across the restaurant. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. The poise, the quiet authority, the broken pride that still stood tall. The billionaire's face froze, not from embarrassment, but confusion. He didn't know. But now, everyone wanted to dot who was this man. What kings? And why would someone like him, a waiter in a downtown eatery, say something so powerful, so specific? Whispers began. The guests weren't just watching anymore. They were wondering. And in that stillness, the billionaire felt something he hadn't in decades. A hush fell across the restaurant. Every fork stilled. Every breath paused. The waiter stood firm, towel in hand, eyes locked on the billionaire. And then he said the sentence that froze every soul in the room. My father once fed your family when you were homeless, and he never asked for a tip. Donovan's face drained of color. Gasps rippled across the elegant dining hall. The words echoed like thunder. No one moved. No one spoke. The waiter continued, voice steady. You wore a coat my mother patched. You slept on our couch when your father disappeared. And now you humiliate people just trying to work. A woman at a nearby table covered her mouth in disbelief. A young couple exchanged wide-eyed glances. Even the head chef peeked out from the kitchen. Donovan stammered, caught off guard. The power had shifted. Not with violence, not with rage, but with truth. The billionaire sat back slowly as if struck. And the waiter, he calmly picked up the glass, wiped the table, and whispered to a nearby server. Table 6 is ready for dessert. The restaurant hadn't just paused, it had changed. By the time the waiter left the billionaire's table, the entire restaurant buzzed, not with gossip, but with awe. A young girl at the back had caught everything on video, just 17, and turning for a local media site. She uploaded it with the caption, he yelled. The waiter responded, and froze the whole world. Within hours, the clip spread like wildfire. Millions watched the black waiter calmly reveal a hidden past that flipped the power dynamic. In a single sentence, the comments flooded in. That's what grace under pressure looks like. He didn't destroy the billionaire, he awakened him. Speechless, just, wow. Talk shows played it on repeat, influencers stitched it, civil rights leaders praised it. People didn't just see a confrontation, they saw a legacy. A father who gave when he had nothing. A son who stood tall, carrying that legacy with dignity. The moment became more than viral. It became historic. The kind of clip taught in schools, quoted in boardrooms, framed in memory. And the billionaire, he saw it too. But what he did next, nobody could have predicted. The next evening, the billionaire returned to the restaurant, not with bodyguards or lawyers, but with humility. He requested to be seated at the same table. Then, when the waiter came near, the entire dining room fell silent. But this time, there was no yelling. The billionaire stood, extended his hand, and said, May I sit with you for dinner? Gasps fluttered across the room. The waiter blinked, unsure, but nodded. What followed wasn't a dramatic apology or a viral spectacle. It was a quiet, heartfelt conversation between two men from vastly different worlds. Bridging a divide centuries deep, the billionaire learned of the man's struggles, his father's sacrifices, and how dignity can survive even when opportunity doesn't. By dessert, the billionaire asked him to join his foundation, not as a token, but as a partner to help reform hiring practices, invest in underserved communities, and uplift voices long ignored. Tears welled in the waiter's eyes. He didn't want revenge. He wanted change. And somehow, this single table became a symbol that healing, no matter how unlikely, can start with listening, even between a billionaire and a black waiter. If the truth is finally heard,